So in this video, we're going to take a look at what makes for loops in Python tick. The for loop in Python is actually a very powerful loop. Most programming languages don't have the power that Python has with its loops. So I've defined 5 different variable types here: a list, a string, a dictionary, a tuple, and then finally just a plain integer. And I'm trying to do a for loop over each one of these. So I'm trying to do a for loop over the list, over the string, over the dictionary, over the tuple, and over the integer. And when I run this, well, first off, we see that actually we can't do a for loop over the integer. So it complains that its int object is not iterable. So this is actually what we're talking about. What does it mean to be iterable? And certain variable types are, and others are not. So the variable types that we have met so far: lists, strings, dictionaries, and tuples are iterable, and then integers and floats are not. And I believe that's all the ones we've encountered. So what do these iterables do? So notice that, first of all, when we iterate over the list, well, we get every element from the list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When we iterate over the string hello world, so we do 4-letter in string, we just print out all the different letters. And when we iterate over the dictionary for X and D, that actually iterates over the keys, so we can print out the keys, and then we can also print out the corresponding values by putting them into D as an index. So let's go down and take a look at that. So we get the key 1 with a value H, key 2, value E, and so on. And then finally, for the tuple, we again just go through the tuple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in this case, tuples are in order. All right, so we have looked at what kinds of variables are iterable, so what you can do a for loop over, but what exactly does it mean to be iterable? So let's take a look at what iterators are. So I define a list, which we know to be iterable. And then I've defined an iterator, iter, so I'm defining an iterator on that list. So iter y, and I've called it it. So I'm going to print out the list y, and I'm going to print out it. Let's just run this. And when I print those out, well, I get the list y, and then I get list iterator object. So what happens? Well, an iterator essentially is just a variable type that has associated with it a next. So when you first initialize it, it's off in a null space, but then when you apply next to it, the very first time, it takes you to the first thing in the list. So when I say next it as an iterator, then it goes to hello. And then when I call next again, it goes to the second thing in the list, world. And then I call it again, and it goes to the third thing. So an iterator simply is an object that has a next method that you can call. And then for loops call that next method. Now the thing is, with iterators, at least the stock built-in one with Python, you can't reset it. So once you go to next, once you've reached this third position in the list, I wanted to highlight that, you can't go back to the beginning position unless you just create a brand new iterator. So I've created a new iterator, it2, and when I print next it2, it starts off at hello, but when I do next it's gone all the way now to the last element of the list. So the only way to reset an iterator is to just create a new one. And then actually when you invoke a for loop, that's exactly what it does, is it creates a new iterator object, and it just starts saying next on that iterator behind the scenes. So when I say for x and y, this is actually an iterator created, and when you see print x, you're really doing iterator.next gives you a hello, iterator.next gives you world, iterator.next gives you 2, and iterator.next gives you 8. And when it's done going through all the elements of the list, it's done. So iterators are the backbone, or one of the backbones of Python. And when we get into object-oriented programming in the second semester, we can look at making your own iterators.